Okay, if you can hear me, just type in the chat so that I can hear you on my side. Okay, last class we were looking at dashboards, and I had showed you a formula to extract the index match formula where you combine two formulas. Then some of you asked of maybe a simplified format. I did some inquiries, then I discovered that it's not a must to present a dynamic dashboard, but you can present a static dashboard where the static dashboard does not move, but there will be also marks for presenting a dynamic dashboard. So for this example, we'll just continue by presenting a static dashboard doesn't change, isn't it? So we'll just continue then. Let me see. So to create a static dashboard is just because you'll be given the metrics that they want, isn't it? So a static dashboard, you just use the normal insert. You just select the data, then you go to insert, then you create the dashboard this way, isn't it? Remember, I've also selected revenue growth rate, isn't it? I go to insert, then maybe I take a pie chart, isn't it? You see the revenue growth rate has come in as, then I'll just introduce data labels, isn't it? So I can also click on this one, then I double click, I click, or I mean I right click, then I go to select data, isn't it? Then I'll go here to edit, of which I'll pick the year's data, isn't it? So it is from here, 2024, then I do okay. Isn't it? That way. You can see 2025. So sorry. I think there were a cell here, isn't it? There was one cell here. I must remove it because so I'll do control minus, then I move cells to the left, isn't it? That way you can see that I'll just widen the space here. You can see that our data is now clearly showing that 2025, it's orange, and our revenue growth rate was a negative percentage, isn't it? Then I'll go to receivable days. Also, I select the receivable days. You remember how we calculated, isn't it? And I can also use another chart. It's not a must to use the pie chart, isn't it? I can use even this one, isn't it? So sorry, not the histogram. I want the column chart, isn't it? And you can see now also our receivable days chart, isn't it? So maybe I'll create another one. So for this, I can do a pie chart also, so that we'll be faster. You right click, then you change, you come to select data, isn't it? Then here on the horizontal axis, isn't it? You pick the years that way, then you just do enter, isn't it? Then okay, it will change the years below, isn't it? We'll do a net profit also. So you just select including the net profit, then you go to insert. Then you'll decide on which one. You can always come to recommended charts, isn't it? They'll give you charts that are recommended for the data, isn't it? So maybe you can pick one. Isn't it? So you just double click, then you go to select data, you go to edit, then you pick the years, isn't it? We can see now. So let's just finish before we create now a dashboard, because a dashboard, I told you, is just a combination, isn't it? If you combine 2, 3 or more, it becomes a dashboard, isn't it? Charts, isn't it? Then for revenue to expenses also, I just select the whole thing. Then I go to insert, I go to recommended charts. Maybe I'll take the pie chart, isn't it? I do okay. Then maybe for the pie chart, I'll introduce the data labels so that they are seen, isn't it? Then So for the current ratio, I can use a column chart, isn't it? Something like that. Then, of course, also for inventory turnover, you can use a column chart also, isn't it? It depends on which chart you want, isn't it? There is no restriction that you must use this type of chart, isn't it? So then I'll just maybe arrange them in a manner that is logical, or it can be seen, isn't it? So of course, the current ratio also always comes, Control Z to take it back, isn't it? The current ratio comes after maybe after the balance sheet, isn't it? So you just maybe present things that comes in the income statement first, then you come and present now the ones that go to the balance sheet, because we are also requested to create a balance sheet of the balance sheet data, isn't it? So I just carry the chart, maybe I can place it here. So I'm just trying to make them small so that they fit. Then I'll arrange them. Isn't it also the gross profit margin? So maybe I can include data labels here so that even if it is small, it can be seen, isn't it? So remember the receivable days comes down here, then I'll want to reduce this one, isn't it? So for the management, if you're presenting a financial reporting, isn't it? They'll first be interested in the incomes, isn't it? And the incomes is the income statement, isn't it? So maybe I can start by this one. I can put it here. Then of course, they will also look at the gross profit, isn't it? So it's just a matter of now arranging them to be nice. Maybe I can put it there, isn't it? Also, another key factor that they can look is the revenue to expenses, isn't it? So I'll bring it there. Then maybe I just move these ones. So Control Z, because I removed the Control Z to go back, isn't it? Then I want to carry the chart, only the full chart, also this one. So revenue to expenses, also they will be keen to look at it, isn't it? I can reduce the size. Of course, we also have the profit margin, isn't it? So you just arrange them in a logical manner so that they are seen properly, isn't it? Then, of course, the receivable days, inventory turnover, and the other one. So because of space, isn't it? Maybe I can decide the receivable turnover. I also put them up here, isn't it? So there is no specific way of arranging or the specific way of being told. You must create using this chart, isn't it? The chart will be your own, isn't it? Your own chart, your favorite chart that you can use, isn't it? But it's just presenting the data in a one view. That is a dashboard, isn't it? It's just presenting all the data needed at one view, isn't it? Then I'll also bring in the current ratio. Then maybe let me check. So we were also told to create a balance sheet, isn't it? So for a balance sheet, we'll just create using one chart, isn't it? We'll use a column chart. So for the balance sheet, maybe they'll not be interested in keen, isn't it? Maybe we take the current assets, the non-current assets, equity, non-current liabilities, and current liabilities, isn't it? So I can just take these ones here. Then I press Control and I hold on Control. And because we are not given here the I'll just take PPE as non-current assets, isn't it? We will change that. Then, of course, you'll move with here because you've, then also the equity, we also take the equity, isn't it? Then long-term debt, because we are not given the non-current liabilities, it was only one, isn't it? Then the current liabilities of which they have not been written, I'll just take the values this way. Isn't it? Still holding on control. You don't leave control, isn't it? Then you go to, after you've selected everything, now you leave control, isn't it? Then you go to insert. Then you can go to recommended charts, isn't it? You see here, there are no recommended charts, isn't it? So maybe I'll just go to all charts, isn't it? And I can see this one, okay, this one looks good, isn't it? Then I do okay. Then I'll select here. I go to, sorry, let me move down. Just click on this one. Then you go to select data, isn't it? Then you come here to, so you just edit them, isn't it? So I can edit them and call this one non-current liabilities. Then I do okay, isn't it? Then of course this one was blank, the current liabilities. Then I'll click on okay. Then of course property, plant and equipment, I wanted to change it to non-current assets, isn't it? Then we'll do okay, isn't it? Then this one I want the years, isn't it? So I'll just select the years there that way. Then I do okay. Then I do okay, isn't it? So chart title, the chart title will be statement of financial position of the balance sheet, isn't it? So you must always put the chart title so that to know which chart is that, isn't it? Then I just bring it here. And because this one's maybe is wider, isn't it? I can reduce also the one for the current ratio while I combine the two, isn't it? Just to make them clearly visible, isn't it? Then I'll, maybe it's there, isn't it? Then I'll consider reducing the size, isn't it? And there you can see now we've created our dashboard. What is remaining is just the title. So I select these two. I go to merge and center, then financial dashboard, isn't it? So this one is a static. Now a static doesn't change, isn't it? The variables don't change. I can do it bold, then just increase the size, isn't it? And this one, it was up a little bit. I reduce it down, isn't it? So this way, we've created a dashboard, isn't it? You can see now that, because let me just reduce the size of the screen so that it is seen clearly. Isn't it somewhere like there? We will just go back to the normal screen. You can see now that we have our dashboard. A dashboard just presents all the information in a single view, isn't it? Okay, kindly report on how repeat on how you are reporting, edit not seen. Okay, we will do with the next example because it's just the same thing, isn't it? You can see this one is a dashboard, isn't it? So it has presented all the information that was required. The information, so it is behind the information it was required. We had given the revenue growth rate, isn't it? You can see the respective percentages. So it's just because the dashboard is small, isn't it? But if you take it to a presentation software, You can see actually you can present it to the management. You can tell them in 2024, we had a gross profit margin of 41%, isn't it? And then you can see also it is saying here, from 2024, 2025, I mean 2025, our revenues were small, isn't it? And you can see here directly, it means we made losses, isn't it? The management will be just looking on, are they increasing? Isn't it? Are they increasing? Isn't it? And for example, you've selected a chart and maybe, for example, if this revenue growth rate, isn't it? You can see that this chart is not displaying it correctly, isn't it? Because we want to see the growth rate over period. So this is not the correct chart to use here. So you just click, you click to the left of the cell, isn't it? You just right click on the chart, isn't it? Then we have change chart type, isn't it? So you can change the chart type to column, isn't it? And because we also have a negative percentage, isn't it? We can use the, let me see, not a combo chart. So you can use also a waterfall chart, isn't it? Because you see a waterfall chart will show the degrees, isn't it? You can see it has taken increase and decrease, isn't it? Then you do okay, isn't it? So that way, you can see now our revenue in 2014, it increased, but you see the chart is saying in 2025, it reduced, isn't it? And decrease is the orange color. And you can also change the, maybe the type of the chart, isn't it? When you've created a chart, you'll see on the top bar, we have chart tools here where my cursor is, isn't it? We have chart tools, isn't it? You can go to chart design, isn't it? Then you can, maybe you can take a color you want, isn't it? Let me just, it's not bringing all charts. So maybe I can take this one, but it's not clear. So you can take something that it is very clear, isn't it? Maybe that one is good, isn't it? That way. And you can see also it has data label saying that in 2024, it increased by 27, then reduced, then increased, isn't it? I think let's go to the next example. Okay, and this one, it doesn't have validation. This one is a static, because I saw the other day people really complained of the formula, making it dynamic, isn't it? Or changing, isn't it? Here we have not included the dynamic part. This one is a static. It doesn't move. It is just presenting all the years at once. But what we were trying to create the other day was dynamic, where if you go to 2024, it shows the results of 2024. That is a dynamic. And I say the difference is that if you create a dynamic dashboard, there will be some extra marks, but also the static dashboard is also ticked, isn't it? So if maybe you see it will take you a lot of time and maybe confuse you, isn't it? You just create a static dashboard. And maybe I'll just show you maybe a question on the dashboard that came. It was a very easy one. So let me just go to the question here, isn't it? So it was for scenarios, and we also did it when we were doing scenario analysis, isn't it? We did it when we were doing scenario analysis. You've just been asked to present a summarized dashboard with suitable graphs to highlight the revenues and net profit under each scenario, isn't it? And you can see it is just 4 marks. So you don't need to go and now start creating a very, very complicated dashboard, because you can see it's just the revenues and the net profit, isn't it? So it depends on how you'll present them. You can create a dynamic dashboard where it changes according to maybe the scenario or the year, because the forecast was, oh, it was only a 1-year forecast. Oh, it was a 3-year. So you can make the dynamic according to the years or according to the scenario, isn't it? Yes, the dynamic, someone is saying the dynamic is good. Yes, so we'll continue to the second one. So maybe for this second one, because the first one, I've showed you how to create, what was it? the static dashboard, isn't it? So I think this one will just take our time, and we do a dynamic, isn't it? A dynamic dashboard. So remember, you must also have to know so the period is from 2013 to 2017, isn't it? So we will create these ones in a data that suits, because this one is the dashboard they want, isn't it? So these ones are the things they want in the dashboard. Sorry, am I breaking? Am I breaking? Someone is saying that I'm breaking, but my internet is good. The other day, I'm very sorry for the class, but we will have a makeup class on tomorrow from 4 to 6 p.m., isn't it? The one on Friday. So others are saying I'm not breaking. Others are saying I'm breaking. So we shall just proceed, isn't it? So just a minute. So to create a dashboard, they have given you the metrics they want to appear in the dashboard. For here, we've been given return on capital employed, isn't it? So you must know the formula, and we've been told from 2013 to 2017, isn't it? So maybe I can just bring them down by Control Shift plus. Then I go move cells down, isn't it here? Then I do enter, isn't it? So then I can just copy the year. So from 2013, Control C, isn't it? I paste them here, Control V. Isn't it? Return on capital employed. If you remember the formula, it was earnings before interest and tax, isn't it? EBIT divide by, you open your brackets, isn't it? So total assets minus current liabilities, isn't it? Total assets minus current liabilities. So remember, we are from 2013. Don't take for the one in 2012, isn't it? So total assets minus current liabilities, isn't it? Then you close your brackets, Control Enter. Isn't it? I can do it as a percentage, then to 2 decimal places. Isn't it? I'll do all of them, then I just drag, isn't it? So we have revenue growth rate equals. So for our revenue growth rate, so of course you open your brackets first, isn't it? You take the one in the 2013 minus the one in 2012, you close bracket, divide by the 2012, isn't it? Then enter. It was a negative, so percentage 2 decimal places. So percentage 2 decimal places, isn't it? Gross profit margin from 2013. So the gross profit divided by the sales, isn't it? Percentage 2 decimal places, isn't it? Then our net profit margin equal. So our net income here divided by our revenue, isn't it? Then our expense to sales ratio. So our expenses, total expenses, divide by revenue, isn't it? Return on assets, isn't it? Net income, divide by total assets, isn't it? This one because we are 2013. Then return on equity, net income, divide by equity, isn't it? This one, total equity for the 2013. Then current ratio equal current liabilities. So equal current assets divided by current liabilities. So here the total. Then debt to equity ratio equal total debt. So remember, debentures and long-term debt are all debt, isn't it? So I'll take the full amount divided by total equity, isn't it? Then inventory turnover equals cost of sale. So for 2013, here, isn't it? Divide by, I'll open two brackets, isn't it? Our inventory. So the average, isn't it? So this one plus this one here, isn't it? Then you close bracket, the first bracket, divide by 2, then you close the second bracket, isn't it? Then enter. So these ones can go in percentages, isn't it? Up to there. So percent, 2 decimal places, isn't it? The other one doesn't go to percentages, so it's just that way. Then I select the whole thing now this way, isn't it? I drag left, isn't it? I've already taken the data, isn't it? The data they want, isn't it? So it's just a matter of now presenting. And it's just about knowing the content, isn't it? If maybe like return on asset, isn't it, over average assets? So you just, and it's just knowing the content, isn't it? 2 brackets plus. So I taken L15, isn't it? I'll take this one now. I divide. So I close the bracket, divide by 2, and then I close all the brackets, isn't it? Then it was a return on assets, isn't it? Then I just drag. And then it's just more of knowing how to create a dashboard, isn't it? Then someone saying you've taken a bit of 2012. Was it here? So I can just, it is on D, isn't it? So I've taken for 2013, isn't it? Then enter. It was on Rose. Then I just drag, isn't it? Then so here, after reaching here is where you decide, maybe I want something dynamic or I want a static one, isn't it? Do you want dynamic or static? And the good thing of dynamic, isn't it? It's not a must that you present everything dynamic, isn't it? You can just also present as numbers. You just maybe do the formatting in the cell, isn't it? So maybe for here, we can do as just a small dashboard with conditional formatting also, isn't it? So we'll not use maybe charts because we just use the formulas one. So we just create a small thing, isn't it? So the first one, of course, it's Rose, isn't it? Control C, Control V. And remember, this Rose has A in front, isn't it? So it must have A when you come to create it, isn't it? It must have the A. So I can merge and center. And also I can merge the two and merge and center, isn't it? Then equal sign, isn't it? Index. I press tab, isn't it? So the array is where you are looking for, isn't it? The data alone, you just leave the years and the rest, isn't it? You press F4, comma, you introduce match, you press tab, lookup value, I'm looking for Rose, isn't it? Comma, lookup array, I'm looking it under here, isn't it? F4, comma, I want an exact match, so 0. Then you close the brackets, then you do another comma, you introduce match again, another match, you press tab. So lookup value, so I have not created the data validation, isn't it? Maybe I'll create it here. I can just take there the way it is, and because this one I don't want it to move, I do a for on it, then comma, lookup array, where am I looking at? The years, isn't it? comma, I want an exact match, so 0. Then I close the brackets, then I close the brackets, isn't it? Control, enter. It will not give us an answer because here we've not done the data validation thing, isn't it? So you go to data here, isn't it? You go to data validation. So you can choose list, isn't it? Then source, you can click on that one so that it becomes low. Then you just select the source, isn't it? You expand it, then you do OK, isn't it? In that, when I change to 20, you can see, so this one was in percentages. Sorry, so I took the wrong 1%. So maybe I can just click here, then I do number, then to 0 decimal places, the years, isn't it? Here is where I wanted percentage. So percentage, then to 2 decimal places, isn't it? So you can see if I change this way, so this one will be a dynamic dashboard, isn't it? Instead of creating a static dashboard here, where like the management will just see everything as one, isn't it? You can create a dynamic where you'll be changing according to, and also you can go another step further and create this dynamic into a chart, isn't it? You make this dynamic into a chart, isn't it? So what I'll do, I'll select these two, I do Control C, isn't it? Then I come to paste them here, Control V, Control V. So 1, 2, 3. So also this one, I'll paste it here, Control V. Then this one maybe Control V, isn't it? I'm just creating the same thing so that they're just seeing. Control V. So again, also here, Control V. Again here, Control V. Again here, Control V. Again here, Control V. Isn't it? So don't worry. So I'll be back in this formula. I forgot to lock something. These values, I didn't lock them, so I can do F on them. Then I do enter, isn't it? Then maybe I'll have to repeat the same thing, Control V. Isn't it? It is locked, isn't it? So I'll be just changing the name here, isn't it? Maybe I want the revenue growth rate, Control C, Control V, isn't it? Then I just check the formula. So index, locked match. Okay, it has taken it. Then so maybe I'll just maybe I'll repeat the formula because I think there's something missing. I think there's something I not locked properly. So index. So you start with equal sign, index. You press tab, isn't it? The array you are looking for is this data here, isn't it? You press F4 there, comma, you introduce match, you press tab, isn't it? So lookup value, I'm looking for this value here and I'm not locking it, isn't it? I press comma, lookup array, I'm looking under here, isn't it? I press F4 there, comma, and I want an exact match. Then I close the brackets, comma, I introduce another match, isn't it? I press tab, lookup value, I'm looking for this one here, the year, isn't it? And I press F4, comma, lookup array, I'm looking under here, isn't it? And I press F4, comma, and I want an exact match, isn't it? Then I close the brackets, I close again the brackets, Control Enter, isn't it? So this is 2016, Control Volt. Yeah, so 2017, it was a negative. Okay, so it's just the same thing. So you can do maybe gross profits, Control C. I do here Control V. Then I just check the formula here, Control V, isn't it? Control V, Control V. So I'm just making sure that the formula is correct. Control V, Control V, isn't it? You can see that the formula is correct, isn't it? So it's just a matter of now changing the values, isn't it? So you are here, net profit, isn't it? Control C, Control V, isn't it? You see it will change dynamically because you're in 2017, isn't it? Control C, Control V, isn't it? Then let's also change the other ones here. Control C, Control V, Control C. Just paste, copy and paste, isn't it? Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V, isn't it? So maybe I will widen here so that it's seen heavy. So you can see, but maybe because here it was not a percentage, inventory turnover, isn't it? It was just a number. Also debt equity was just a number. Also current ratio was just a number, isn't it? So you can see just taking the values here, and it is dynamic from here, isn't it? If I choose 2013, you'll see the value changes, isn't it? And you can see that maybe ROA for 2013. So maybe I can do Control C. I just, maybe the formula is wrong. Yes, you can see. So now the formula is correct, isn't it? You can see return on assets for 2013, it was 0.86%, isn't it? And you can see it is the 0.86%. So you can go a step further and make these values into a chart, isn't it? Into a chart, isn't it? So also you can maybe also decide, you just select everything here, isn't it? Then you go to insert, then you go to recommended charts. And because we are having some negatives, we will use a waterfall chart, isn't it? Because of the negatives, isn't it? Then we do okay. We are seeing the difference of this of dynamic. You see now here they will not have the years. We only have increase and decrease, isn't it? So maybe we start from, of course, 2013, we go to 2014, isn't it? You can see on 2014, our return on asset increased, ROSE increased, our revenue growth rate also was at 24%, our gross profit was at 37, net profit was 43. So you can just maybe change, maybe look at 2017, isn't it? You can see the values of 2017. If you are looking at the operating expense, isn't it? It was 23%, and it's the same one here, 23%. So there are like okay, someone is confusing me with the chart, and there are just like several ways, isn't it, of creating the dashboard, isn't it? Remember, we've just created one, isn't it? And also, I can do also Control X. There is no limit that you must use this chart, isn't it? You can also use the other one that I was showing you, where you less by 100 so that it can show on a pie chart the percent, isn't it? It can show on a pie chart the percent. Also, you can select just, so the one by one, I will need 100%. So the column chart, I need a stacked column. So the problem because here we'll be moving with the dynamics is changing with the changing variable, and I'm not seeing the data changing. So let me just control exit. Isn't it? Because this one is a percentage. But I told you there are several ways of creating. So, and maybe you can, I don't know if a pie chart goes in properly. No, the pie chart will not show us. The chart that goes in here properly is only the waterfall chart because of the negatives and the positives, isn't it? Control Z. So you are just to name the chart, isn't it? So this one is ROSE, revenue. So this one can be the income statement, isn't it? So there are several ways of creating the charts. So, and there you are not limited. It just depends. It just depends on what chart are you creating, isn't it? I can also do the rest for the other ones. I just select them. I go to insert. Then I go to recommended charts. Then I go to all charts. Because here we never had a negative, isn't it? I can also just take the bar chart because we never had a negative, isn't it? And here it's the chart. Maybe you see these lines are called the grid lines, isn't it? You can remove them, isn't it? So that it looks something nicer. And maybe you can consider incorporating the data labels so that we see, the management can easily see where the data is falling, isn't it? So maybe I'll just create something small again here. Then I put it there, something clean. Also there, also I take this one, isn't it? And I can consider now widening the spaces up to there maybe. Isn't it also up to there? Isn't it? So because our data validation was there, I can do Control Shift plus, then I move cells down. Isn't it? Control Shift plus, then I move cells down. Isn't it? So the charts are not moving. Because the chart is not there, isn't it? So you just name it, isn't it? And there's no specific format of creating a dashboard, financial dashboard, isn't it? Control enter, control bolt, and we can consider. Then you must also illustrate here that this is the why you can choose the year, isn't it? So that you just you will be switching, isn't it? 2013. So this one is dynamic, isn't it? It is not static. Okay, someone is still on the formula. The formula, you can see it up here, isn't it? Maybe I just send the formula to the WhatsApp group, isn't it? I just send the formula to the WhatsApp group. Isn't it? Then we proceed to the next. So you can see, you can just create a dashboard using any method, isn't it? Provided that it is showing the meaning of a dashboard. It shows all the information at a single view, isn't it? You can see all the information at a single view, isn't it? So if you change, it will be changing, isn't it? We'll proceed to another one. So this one. And you can see how this data is, isn't it? This data is not same to these types, isn't it? It's not same to this type of data, isn't it? They are not the same. This one is a little more different. So if you've been given, here's the tip. If you have the titles on top, isn't it? You'll use a pivot table. While if you don't have titles on top, you can see the titles are on left. Here is just the years, isn't it? While here you can see the years are, or the months actually, are this way, isn't it? So the titles are on top, isn't it? It means we'll use a pivot table, isn't it? So I'll show you how to use a pivot table. So you first select the data. Isn't it? And maybe you just read the question. The following balance sheet data is extracted from the books of Max Limited. Required, create a statement of financial position dashboard clearly showing the balance of each month under review. Include the following metrics in your dashboard: the current ratio, debt equity ratio, and quick ratio. So remember, you've been to prepare a statement of financial position dashboard, isn't it? So you can go to insert here. Then you can see on the left here, we have pivot table, isn't it? You just click on pivot table. So you'll be asked here from the pivot table, isn't it? So the table has been this one that has been selected. So choose where you want, isn't it? So if you want it to a new worksheet, you choose on a new worksheet, it will open a new worksheet. If you want it on the existing worksheet, you just click here on existing worksheet. Then you click the location, isn't it? Maybe I want it here, isn't it? I'll move it later. You don't add it to the data model, isn't it? So it will bring here the pivot table list, isn't it? Remember the amount goes to the values, isn't it? You just drag it. Alternatively, Excel just knows if it is figures, it will go to values, isn't it? You just click on it, isn't it? Then we are looking, we have the class, isn't it? So to prepare an income statement, we will start with a class, isn't it? And maybe if just I move the sheet, you can see now it is showing the classes only, isn't it? Then I don't want to click on types, isn't it? Then let's first remove the class, isn't it? We can start with type, isn't it? So the type, it will take everything, isn't it? You can come click on the drop down list. So this one is showing all the types. So sorry, I'm the one forgetting. So you first start with the class, isn't it? So here's the table. You first start with the class, isn't it? The class respectively. Then the amount, isn't it? Then the type. So the type, let me just see how you incorporate in the type. So this is by using of the pivot table, isn't it? Then so I'll unselect all, then I take on current liability. Then I'll come to, so the filter part is not taking in what I want. So just a minute. Just a minute. I think so okay, maybe I'm the one forgetting. So I'll just take the type, then I want to filter the class, isn't it? Yes, that's it. you'll filter the class, isn't it? So that you see the class here, it is current assets, isn't it? It is only showing the current assets, isn't it? Then I can go to, I hide the field list. Sorry, you left click, you right click there, you go to pivot table options, isn't it? Then I want I want display, isn't it? So I want to off that one so that it doesn't display anything there, isn't it? Then this one I'll just delete and replace it with a space, isn't it? Then so I just select the whole pivot table, then I do Control C, isn't it? Then I paste it to the left there, Control V, isn't it? Control V, then also Control V. I'm pasting it just, isn't it? Then I also paste there, Control V. I'll widen the spaces. I'll show you why I'm pasting, isn't it? So I think the spaces are good. So you just have to filter this one. Maybe because I'm going this way, I go with non-current assets, isn't it? I do okay. So sorry, I think Control Z. I think there's something I'm missing on the pivot tables. So I'll just start afresh. So I'll go here to pivot table. So Control Z. So Control Z is to go back, isn't it? I just start again. Isn't it? I come to insert, I come to pivot table, isn't it? Maybe I'll work with a new sheet so that it doesn't really confuse me, isn't it? So it opens a new sheet, isn't it? Then the amount, of course, then I think is where I'm confusing is it the class or the type? Oh, so I was to select all of them, isn't it? I was first to select, so this is what I was missing, isn't it? After I've taken the total assets, the total. Sorry, about the month I'll show you. So you are just starting the question. I also take the class, isn't it? After I've taken the class, I take the type. So something like that. Then maybe I'll come here to filtering, isn't it? Then I remove all others. So this is where I was not getting it. Then I do okay. You see, it will only show the current assets first, isn't it? Then I select the data, the whole data, isn't it? Then I do Control C, I paste it here, Control V, isn't it? I widen the spaces, isn't it? So it is just a matter of now changing the to non-current assets, isn't it? So I must remove the current assets, isn't it? I just want non-current assets alone. Isn't it? Let me just move the tables, Control X, Control V, isn't it? In the middle so that maybe we can see properly. And also this one, I widen it. Isn't it? Wacha ufala bana tena babe. What?